For years, bringing He-Man back to the big screen felt like one of those Hollywood dreams that just kept slipping away. Scripts came and went, studios changed hands, and fans were stuck rewatching the 80s cartoon and that wild Dolph Lundgren movie, hoping Eternia would someday rise again. Now here we are. Masters of the Universe is locked in for June 2026, and this time it really feels like it's happening for real. The movie is deep into post-production, the hype is building, and everything around this project screams that we're heading toward a full-on blockbuster event. What makes this even more exciting is the timing. Insiders have been buzzing that the very first teaser is already finished and sitting at the studio just waiting for the drop. The word going around is late January for the release, which honestly makes perfect sense. That's usually when studios start kicking off the marketing for their big summer titles, and Masters of the Universe has the potential to be one of the biggest next summer hits. It didn't show up at Comic-Con in Brazil like some fans expected, but that might actually mean they're saving it for a bigger, more controlled reveal. When it drops, it's probably going to explode online. And let's be real, this is a fascinating gamble. Right now, the industry is in this weird place where the projects nobody expects to dominate end up being the ones that blow up. Masters of the Universe is iconic, no doubt about it. In the 80s, He-Man was everywhere. Toys, cartoons, comics, catchphrases that are still burned into pop culture. But over the years, the franchise kind of drifted out of the spotlight. It hasn't really pulled in a huge new generation of fans. Most of the people who are hyped for this movie grew up with it, and yeah, a lot of them are pushing 40 or way past it. Among modern teens, Eternia isn't exactly the hottest name out there. That's what makes Mattel's strategy so interesting. After Barbie turned into a global phenomenon, it's clear they're serious about building their own cinematic universe. What a lot of people forget is that, internally, Masters of the Universe was actually the franchise they wanted to crack first. Producers have talked about how He-Man was always seen as the foundation for a potential film universe, long before Barbie ever took center stage. Ironically, almost nobody believed in Barbie as a movie. Then Warner's came in with a bold concept. Margot Robbie jumped on not just as the star, but as a producer, and suddenly, that project transformed into a monster hit that nobody saw coming. Now it feels like the spotlight is swinging back to He-Man. In many ways, it's an easier property to adapt. Eternia already has built-in mythology, heroes, villains, magic, sci-fi tech, and endless storylines. There's a huge lore sandbox to play in. Barbie had to be reinvented from scratch as a cinematic idea, while Masters of the Universe already feels like it was made for epic fantasy on the big screen. So as the second major pillar of Mattel's movie push, this film carries a lot of weight. Casting-wise, Nicholas Galitzine stepping into the role of He-Man could be a massive career moment for him. If this movie hits big, it could launch him into that next level of leading man status. He's got the look, the presence, and now he's got a role that comes with a legendary name attached to it. This is the kind of part that can redefine how audiences see an actor overnight. Of course, no Masters of the Universe movie lives or dies without its villain, and that brings us to Skeletor. Jared Leto is taking on the skull-faced Lord of Destruction, and that alone has sparked endless debate. Some fans are joking about the so-called Leto curse, pointing at past projects of his that didn't exactly set the box office on fire. But jokes aside, nobody has actually seen him in full Skeletor mode yet. The few people who supposedly have are saying he looks incredible and very true to the classic design. That's huge, because Skeletor can't just be some grounded, reimagined villain. He has to feel larger than life, theatrical, and a little unhinged. What's really getting me hyped is how committed the studio seems to be to embracing the 80s spirit. From what's being whispered behind the scenes, this is not going to be some gritty, hyper-realistic take, where everything has to make sense in the real world. MGM and Amazon, with Mattel heavily involved, are pushing for full-on fantasy. Bright colors, bold designs, outrageous armor, crazy castles, magic flying everywhere. Pure escapism. No trying to explain how these characters could exist in our reality. That's exactly what this franchise needs. There's also talk of some retcons and fresh lore tweaks, which is pretty much inevitable with a reboot like this. They'll respect the core mythology, but also reshape things so new audiences can jump in without homework. If they do it right, it could feel like a modern myth built on classic bones. It's wild to think about how long this road has been. For a while, Netflix was the home for Masters of the Universe, not just with Kevin Smith's animated series, but also with plans for a live-action reboot as a full-length exclusive. That alone shows how close we were to seeing this story go straight to streaming. And honestly, that would have felt like a missed opportunity. The animated show didn't totally flop, but it also didn't become the beloved revival many fans hoped for. It kind of came and went, and eventually the whole live-action plan at Netflix faded away. Meanwhile, Barbie raced ahead ahead in development and ended up redefining what a toy-based movie could be. Now, years later, it finally feels like He-Man's turn. The project is basically complete, the teaser is reportedly ready, and all signs point to the release date holding strong with no delays in sight. At the center of this reboot is director Travis Knight, and he's surrounded by a stacked cast and a creative team that clearly wants to do this world justice. Nicholas Galitzine steps in as Prince Adam, with Jared Leto going full dark as Skeletor. Teela is played by Camila Mendes, Evil Lyn by Alison Brie, and Idris Elba takes on Man-at-Arms, which already sounds like perfect casting. On top of that, Morena Baccarin shows up as the Sorceress, Hafthor Bjornsson becomes Goatman, and that's just part of the lineup. The script comes from Chris Butler, built on earlier drafts by the Ney brothers and Dave Callahan, with Mattel Films producing. So yeah, this isn't some small side project. The story they're telling is a full-on origin, and it leans hard into the idea of Adam as a lost kid who grows up far from where he truly belongs. When he's 10 years old, Adam crashes on Earth in a spaceship and gets separated from the Power Sword, the one thing that ties him to Eternia. He grows up as a normal guy, with no real memory of his past, until almost 20 years later, he finally tracks the sword down. That moment pulls him back across space to his home planet, where Skeletor is already moving to take everything over. But before Adam can stand a chance against a villain that powerful, he has to uncover the truth about who he is and accept his destiny as He-Man, the most powerful man in the universe. During a presentation at Brand Licensing Europe, Amazon marketing boss Greg Coleman gave a clearer picture of what they're aiming for. He talked about the movie as a fun, entertaining ride that anyone can jump into, even if they've never touched the franchise before. In his view, Skeletor is one of those all-time great villains who's just a blast to watch, but at the core, the story is really about Adam as a regular person who has to step up and grab the power that's been inside him all along. He made it clear that the cast feels full and layered, and that Travis Knight had a strong vision guiding the whole thing. The goal is simple: make something longtime fans can geek out over, while also making it welcoming and exciting for people who are brand new to Eternia. And if that wasn't enough to get fans buzzing, a leaked description of an unfinished trailer has been making the rounds and pushing the hype even higher. Supposedly, it starts on Earth with Adam talking to a friend about the strange arrival of Cringer, his tiger companion, already hinting that his life is about to change. From there, the footage jumps to his journey back to Eternia, where a figure believed to be the Sorceress explains his true lineage and where he comes from. Quick flashes of Skeletor and Evil Lyn tease the threat ahead, setting up the big conflict. Then comes the moment everyone's waiting for. Adam raises the sword, declares his power, and transforms into He-Man. After that, it's a rush of action shots, with He-Man charging into battle against Skeletor's forces as the trailer builds to its final beats. Coleman doubled down on that dual approach during the same event, explaining that while hardcore fans will definitely spot plenty of Easter eggs, the movie is designed as a broad entry point. The idea is that anyone can walk in, understand what's going on, and have a great time, while longtime fans still feel rewarded for sticking with the franchise all these years. In his words, this is meant to be the kind of movie everyone ends up talking about. That balance between honoring the past and building something new runs through everything about this production. People close to the project have talked about how deeply the team understands why Masters of the Universe has lasted so long. It's not just the muscles and the swords, it's the nostalgia, the simple but timeless fantasy, and that universal idea of an ordinary person discovering something extraordinary inside themselves. The sense is that they've been waiting for the right partners and the right creative vision to finally bring this world to life in a way that feels truly epic. More than anything, the movie seems focused on making the characters feel human, even in the middle of all the cosmic fantasy. Adam isn't just a hero who shows up already perfect. He's a regular guy who has to grow into the power that's been part of him from the start, and that journey is supposed to carry real emotional weight. This version of Adam starts out as a total ordinary dude, and that lines up perfectly with the story leaks we heard about a year ago. From everything floating around, the movie is clearly retconning his origin in a big way. Instead of growing up as a prince on Eternia, Adam will have spent most of his life on Earth, living among normal people, working an office job, completely unaware of who he really is. It's a classic Chosen One setup, no doubt about it. The guy who doesn't belong, trying to fit into our world until fate catches up with him and unlocks powers he never imagined. We've seen this story beat before with Marvel's Thor getting humbled on Earth, with DC's Shazam going from a regular kid to a lightning-powered hero, and even in plenty of old-school fantasy tales. Masters of the Universe looks ready to play in that same space, but with its own cosmic sword and sorcery flavor layered on top. What's interesting is that while the Earth scenes were shot out in the open, all the truly massive massive stuff was kept under wraps on sound stages. That's where they built Eternia itself. Places like Castle Grayskull, the ancient fortress at the heart of the mythology, the dark and twisted Snake Mountain, Skeletor's domain, and the royal halls of Eternia, where the kingdom's fate is decided. Those environments were recreated behind closed doors, which is why we still haven't seen any real looks at the fantasy side of the movie yet. And because of that, most of the cast is still a mystery in terms of visuals. We haven't seen Jared Leto as Skeletor or any of the other wild characters that are supposed to populate this world. For a franchise this colorful, it's kind of crazy how little has been officially revealed. That's why this first trailer feels so important. It's not just about hype, it's about finally understanding what kind of movie this really is. According to the producers, fans shouldn't be worried at all when it comes to the designs. The promise being made over and over is that this will be pure canon energy. Big, bold, unapologetically inspired by the original 80s cartoon. One of them even described it as action figures coming to life on the big screen, and honestly, that's the exact vibe you want for Masters of the Universe. This is not a franchise that should be grounded or overly realistic. Eternia is supposed to feel like a fantasy playground where muscles, magic, lasers, and skull castles all exist together without apology.